HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
Good evening and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight Weekend. I'm LaDawn Davis. Thanks so much for joining us. We begin tonight with news from Inagua. That island's small airport terminal has been facilitating international and domestic flights to and from Matthew Town for decades. The small building houses immigration, customs, civil aviation, and other airport stakeholders. However, residents believe it's an eyesore and have been hoping that the government would construct a new state-of-the-art airport for the country's most southern island. That call has not fallen on deaf ears, as Prime Minister Perry Christie has even recognized the urgency for a new Inagua International Airport in Matthew Town. During his visit to the commissioning ceremony for the United States Coast Guard's $20 million hangar in Inagua this past Thursday, Prime Minister Christie announced that Works Minister Philip Davis and his engineering team accompanied him to view the current airport structure to see how the changes will be made. He then declared to Inagua residents that they will receive a new airport very soon.
This here will be transformed from this piece of paper to that site over there, or an appropriate site situate over there, so that when the international flights come in to Inagua, or the domestic flights come into Inagua, that the people will be able to be met in the same way that the helicopter pilots will be met when they come into this site.
Prime Minister Christie also hinted that he plans to meet with the movers and shakers of Inagua to discuss economic opportunities for the island. The government continues to pump millions of dollars into protecting the Bahamas on land and at sea. A massive upgrade of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force was announced several years ago, and today the Christie administration is keeping its commitment to upgrade the Defense Force's resources at sea. National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage revealed in Inagua on Thursday the government's newest initiative to secure more equipment for the Royal Bahamas Defense Force.
Just last week, the government of the Bahamas executed a letter of intent with Damen Shipyards Group, headquartered in the Netherlands, for the acquisition of 8 coastal and offshore patrol vessels and a dedicated roll-on, roll-off landing craft. The landing craft will be fitted with a 25-ton crane and demountable disaster relief equipment to provide emergency relief, inclusive of medical facilities, desalinated water, and sanitary equipment, which will rapidly be deployed in the event of a natural disaster. The vessels and ancillary-based development will take place over the next 3 to 4 years and will cost some $200 million.
That additional equipment will come in handy for the Royal Bahamas Defense Force as they continue to find illegal migrants coming to our shores. The latest apprehension occurred yesterday morning in Key Lobos, that's in the southern Bahamas near the coast of Cuba. 17 Cuban migrants, that's 14 men and 3 women, arrived at the Royal Bahamas Defense Force's Coral Harbor base earlier this afternoon. Defense Force officials indicated that the Cuban nationals were dehydrated but appeared to be in good health. They are now in the hands of immigration officials for further processing. The Bahamas Christian Council says it's preparing for battle with the Bahamas Petroleum Company if the owners don't split their profits in half with the Bahamian people. But is this a fight that the council should be getting involved in? Andrew Knowles has more.
Should oil be found in Bahamian waters, the Bahamas Christian Council, along with the National Citizens Alliance Committee, believes Bahamians should be justly compensated. As it stands, the Bahamas Petroleum Company has an agreement with the government that secures 12.5 to 25% of profits for Bahamians on a sliding scale, in accordance with legislation in place. However, that could change. The Council's Economic Committee Chairman, Reverend Patrick Paul blasted the agreement, branding it as categorically unjust, injurious, and unfair. And now the council wants the company to pump an additional 25% into a proposed sovereign fund trust.
A fund trust will serve the Bahamian people well. It would help economically, it will help socially, it will help educationally, it will help in our sports arena, etc., etc.
While the council isn't opposed to oil drilling, it's even more concerned that should oil be found in Bahamian waters, Bahamians may not have the opportunity to own the oil industry.
The church is basically and generally in support, but under proposed legislation that will secure both the Bahamian rights to it and indeed the protection of our environment.
And while there are some who applaud the church for speaking out on the topic, there are others who have criticized the council for not being vocal enough on the issues that really matter.
Well, I think the Christian Council, they are the moral voice for the country. And I think it is unfair of them to say they can speak to referendum, they can speak to oil, but something like Randy Fraser, they decide that's something that they ought not touch. I think they need to be careful of the fights they pick.
Really, the Christian Council should be winning more souls for Christ. And once you find Christ and you have Christ in your life, you wouldn't be committing crimes.
Well, no, I don't think they should get involved when it comes to oil. Well, it just seems like the council get involved when there's some sort of money attached with the numbers business and now this oil business.
Well, I don't think they should get involved with everything that's involved in this country. They should just stick with Christian issues.
As a former Christian Council president, Reverend Paul admitted that the council has neglected some aspects of its duties. But as the country gears up to celebrate its 40th independence, he says all that will change.
In that regard, church leaders, we have met over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we have had meetings upon meetings in that regard. So in short order, you'll be hearing something from that perspective. But we're very much in tune that we would have allowed a lot of things to slip or some things to slip, and we're hoping to correct most of those things, the ones that we can correct moving forward as we go into a new frontier, as we cross 40 into 41.
Andrew Knowles, ZNS Network News.
The Ministry of Transport and Aviation confirming that the Bahamas Oil Refining Company, or BORCO, officials reported an oil spill in waters in the area of Pinders Point, Grand Bahama, about 6 o'clock yesterday evening. The Port Department discovered what appeared to be a small quantity of oil covering an area of about 70 feet on rocks at a breakwater in the area of BORCO's pipelines that connect with a jetty. Officials confirmed this is the same area of the last sighting of oil in February and that the source of that last oil spill has not been determined. The Transport Ministry noted that the area affected has been boomed off and any additional oil will be corralled in the area of the breakwater and will be retrieved from the water, and the affected rocks will be cleaned. Transport officials claim that due to potential adverse weather conditions, it is not expected that divers can safely submerge before Tuesday to further investigate the source of the leak. While this appears to be an incident involving a small amount of oil, the ministry is very concerned about the occurrence of yet another emission of oil in Bahamian waters, particularly the impact on Pinders Point residents. Transport Ministry officials are currently reviewing BORCO's emergency management plan and will schedule a meeting with senior officials of BORCO on its operations. Coming up, police officially identify the country's latest murder victim. That story and more when the Bahamas Tonight Weekend continues.